All right, thank you, and welcome to the final video in this series. Over the course of this video series, I was talking about what League truly is, but I realized that that's my view of the game, what I feel like the game is to me. So I brought in another player here, a good friend of mine, and we're gonna discuss like what you know is this the same for everyone? Because he might have some different opinions about certain things that we'll find value in them. So would you like to give yourself a name, or would you just like to go the unnamed individual?
Um, I could just go by my normal name. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Cameron.
All right. This is Cameron, and
Yep.
so you watched all three of the games now, and we were getting into a little pre-discussion about specifically some elements of peer pressure that we will go into later in this. But what do you think about the whole premise I gave there of like League of Legends, what it is and what it is about? Like, just give me your intro thoughts for the listener.
Well, I think League is about really developing the self. Um, it's always comes down to your own ability to stay confident when things are tough. Obviously, I agree with a lot of the points you made there. And your ability to overcome challenges, even though most of them, or a couple of them, are out of your control in a couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'd say it's really about developing yourself as a person.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that 100%.
um,
One highlight I'll give is what I loved that these games all had is the early game didn't go perfectly. Even the games I was like that did better for me, like game 2 and 3, things still were just not quite working out fully early. Like in game 2, you could see it where like we didn't get anything off the invade. We got a bunch of close things. We got maybe a flash is what we really got. And then there was a fight early in game 2 where it's like we got really chunked out and like we couldn't look like we were doing anything. I burned both my sums later when Lilia ganked, and we didn't get any kills. We got both their flashes, but
yeah, you
nothing was
started like
really.
0-3.
In game 1, yeah, no. In game 2, I didn't die
Oh,
at all.
game two.
But like, yes, in all three of the games though, nothing was fully panning out in the early fights. Like in game 3, even like was the best game. We get the 2 kills at the start, but like I during the next gank that the Moo made, we only killed one of them instead of getting both. And like I had a lot of plays where I was almost killing them, but I just couldn't quite get them. But like a collie would pick them up or something. It wasn't going perfectly, but it's like I could have been like upset about like the fact that I wasn't having the things work out the way I wanted to, but I just kept staying calm and vibing with it. Game 2 actually, notably though, like the Lulu and MF were playing really well and made it so we just couldn't kill him quite barely. And I trying to figure out a way to describe this. I didn't want to get pressured into doing something I didn't want.
Yeah,
Or
because
yeah.
sometimes scenarios like that, people will expend more resources
Mm-hmm.
because someone almost didn't die, or they
Yeah.
didn't get the result they
It's
wanted.
like you didn't get enough of a like payout that they get upset in a way. Like if you don't get enough of a reward, it feels like the play wasn't a success to them.
Yeah, or I think a lot of people could relate to that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And we were talking about peer pressure. I actually want to go back into that conversation because that's a really good one to discuss. I think the
Yeah,
idea of how peer pressure works in League.
when someone pings for a play
Mm-hmm.
or believes you should have grouped somewhere,
Yeah,
and then the idea of like, oh, okay, you get spam question mark pinged,
flaming in
spam
general, just like
pinged in
flaming
chat,
as a
flaming.
motivation. Like
Yeah,
people feel
instigate
so
you to do
motivated.
something.
It's like people have a
Well,
fear of flaming too. That like that's what motivates them into like actions is the fact that they're worried about being flamed.
yeah,
That's like a
but
huge driver of bad decisions in League.
and the people who lack confidence usually adhere to that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big one. It's
Um,
hmm?
you usually see the more confident you are, I would say the higher rank you're able to go.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that can only be to a certain degree, right? You don't
True,
be
true.
delusional.
That is like if you don't have a baseline amount of confidence though, you do find that you'll hit a point where you just like it's hard to progress because you're relying upon so much
Yeah,
luck to progress. Like if you don't have confidence, you rely upon luck heavily. Like the luck of what teammates you get is going to determine like how much you can progress because based off your own skill though still like if you're a bad player like luck alone won't get you to climb but like if you're a good player but low confidence You can climb when you get enough good allies that you'll be able to show through. But that's a lot like slower and painful of a climb to have.
I'm thinking thousands of games in my mind when I hear that,
Oh yeah, no,
not hundreds.
oh no, yeah, that's thousands of games. Like people who you know, you're relying upon the luck of can I get enough good teammates to make it so that I can finally climb.
Yeah,
And
I don't think I've even hit 1,000 games ranked in a season. So
actually, you know what? When I think about this specifically, this concept here, that describes a lot of people I've met who actually are somewhat decent, but who have painful, painful journeys because they get stuck in like silver bronze area. And the fact that they get pulled into other people's plays, they let other people's bad decisions affect them, it just eats away at them almost.
yeah, like I think I said this earlier. I played in like a bronze game earlier today.
Yep.
We could talk about the ethics of smurfing later,
I mean,
but
yeah, that's a different conversation, but you can make the point. Yeah,
yeah,
we're not here for the ethics of Smurfing, don't worry.
uh, yeah. So I made like a split pushing play and Dingo to Dragon, right?
Yep.
I took 3 turrets and an inhib,
Mm-hmm.
and I got viciously flamed by everyone on my team for not going for
They
that
don't
dragon.
understand it.
Well, we got
Oh, they don't.
3 to 4 objectives, I guess.
Yeah.
But in their mind, dragon was a higher priority.
They don't understand the value in your play.
Yeah.
That's the trouble. Is that players sometimes are in their lower rank, especially. I think I heard this on the BBC recently on the Broken by Concept podcast, and they talked about how the game would be much less toxic if players could just see the game through multiple lenses. Like if players understood what other roles want or what they're doing, it would be a much less
yeah, I
toxic
think
game.
you need foundational understanding of every role.
Yeah, I mean,
it
would be so much less toxic if you did.
Yeah.
Like, because players, when they don't understand what someone else is doing, that's when they get really upset or they start, pinging each other. But I saw this recently actually in a game I played with someone who the game was going not badly. It was really close fights, and then one play failed that we were going for, some of us, 4 of us, and they started pinging the top laner and they're spam pinging them what the hell are you doing? It's they're not supposed to be at this fight. It's I'm trying to make a point of that person who's playing a Lowy, so it's their job is to split push. They're not going to attend that fight with us. It'd be wrong of them to do so. But because that player doesn't play top lane, they didn't understand that.
Because the fundamentals for each role is very different.
And even within a role, there's just the positional, what is your job on a different champion.
Yeah.
And they're so different.
Like playing a ranged champion top lane is very different too.
Or just the Yorick Lowys versus playing someone who's a flanker, like a Camille.
Yep.
Like Yorick and Lowy, they don't want to leave top lane ever. Camille, you might be able to rotate to some fights, but you would prefer to sit on split push as well, but or playing an engaged support versus an enchanter. There's just such huge differences between these champions. But
yeah, so even your personality could dictate what type of champions you play, and that might show.
True. Now to wrap up, actually, I want to somewhat direct this conversation back towards what League of Legends is, and we were talking about it's a development of self. I put it. My main points I said were this: League is a test of your ability to handle when things do not go as planned. I think that is actually one of the biggest points that I had in this series of games. Things don't always go as you plan to, and what do you do when that occurs? Some players, that's the moment they lose their mental. They tilt every game because they will. The moment something doesn't go right, it's cause for tilt. But I think resilience is what League of Legends measures. Can you stay calm and figure out what you can do? Some players, I think, we're talking about confidence, actually. Some players don't have, full confidence, but they will find a way to stay positive. You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really shining mark for some players. Is you may not be, the most confident player, but you can stay positive. Some players actually aren't even the best, but they can stay positive enough to allow the good players in their games to do what they want to do. That's the crazy part. Is those are usually when people who get accused of being elo inflated, people who can stay positive or calm around in the games and allow the better players in their game to maybe carry. Those players get really harassed because they get called elo inflated. But I think there's actually is skill in that.
Yeah, Underappreciation for
Yeah.
sure.
Like in League, it's not all about can you be the most mechanically gifted player ever.
Yeah,
I think
it's
that's
not.
something I used to fall into a trap of. Is I used to feel like if I'm mechanically better than someone, why do I not win every game versus them?
You know what? That's true.
Like that's an easy trap to fall into in a way. Because it feels
Yeah,
like
I've
when you
definitely seen people with good micro, but lack the understanding of even the most simple concept of how do you end the game.
well, there's another layer to this too. It's you can have advanced understanding of like game systems and mechanics, but there's understanding how like resource allocation and management works. Like the game is a team game of like 5 players on the map, and
Hmm.
each your presence is a resource. Where you each are
Yes,
located at a given time determines so much of the strategy, and that part is really really hard to learn because you can have like a ton of knowledge, personal knowledge, and knowledge of champions and everything, and you can have a ton of like micro skill and be able to perform really well. But if you don't understand the macro element of the game, like resource allocation for people or like timings, you will not win unless you're able to 1v5 in a given scenario. But like that's not even feasible.
yeah, I think players like that also fall into the trap of just grouping.
True, and sometimes actually a big trouble is that
And
players who have that level of knowledge I described actually they get toxic really fast, really badly.
yep,
Because they will get like look at the scenario, be like, I know all these things, I know I can perform this well, yet I don't win these games sometimes, and they can't handle it. I speak actually
yeah,
from experience. That was me several years ago. Like I had dedicated so much time to learning the game, but also like into my execution abilities. Like I'm not perfect at execution actually. In a way, actually, I think I execute worse now than I did then because I stopped being so like brutal with myself about it because it just was leading me down an unhealthy path. But it's interesting how that actually makes me perform worse though. Like in a way, like somewhat. Like
well, do you think you're intentionally thinking about other things going on the map,
yes,
right?
absolutely. I'm using that mental stout gas floor. I am.
Yeah,
I'm not spending it all on my micro constantly. Because basically that's
yeah.
what I
It's
did
like,
before.
oh,
Is like I
they
was
use
just
this
constantly,
ability. I'm going to go do this, this, and this. You're not hyper focused on what's in front of you.
or like every single click I'm making, I'm not like thinking about like why am I clicking there versus a different place. It's like yeah, it was basically like I spent the allocation of my resources differently, like my mental resources. I was like okay, I'm gonna put it to think about this thing or like what should I be doing like next is my play, and it made the game feel more fun. It made the game feel less mentally draining, and it just made it so I had a more positive outlook on the game. But
Yeah. Here's the thought I had
yeah, go
going
ahead.
on to what people think League is. Um, do people who understand others people's perspectives more think they could understand macro faster?
Hmm. I like this idea. Okay, so you're saying people who understand people's perspective, like they're good at putting themselves in other people's shoes.
Yes.
So like that's one thing I feel like I've gotten a lot better at over the years. Is like by learning like how to put myself in other people's shoes. That's when I started to really understand macro more now. Like I did actually pick that up now. Do you? How is your
Well,
ability to do this? Like, do you feel like you're good at putting yourself in other people's shoes, or do you struggle sometimes?
I don't really struggle.
Okay.
I can understand why a lot of people do things.
Logically or emotionally?
Logically.
Okay, so because I feel like there's a second layer there, which is understanding why someone logically does something versus emotionally does something is a very different aspect of League. That I feel like I've gotten really good at understanding emotional motivations for League, which originally I was only logic. I couldn't understand emotional reasonings for things, which is why whenever I saw someone get like tilted,
Well,
I'd get totally confused. Like, why the fuck? Why is this person tilted?
well, I could understand why people emotionally get tilted as well to a level.
Hmm.
Um, I think it's probably me as a person.
Hmm. I mean, yeah,
I tend to not be as emotional as many others, right?
yeah, you're more composed. But
Yeah.
that's interesting. It's like League of Legends in a way. It's like it is a. I like the aspect of League is like you're gonna fail at things, and or things are not gonna go your way. And what do you do in those failures? Like for the 3 games I showed in the series, they're all wins. So it may not be as highlighted in that fact, but like sometimes things are gonna go wrong. Like I think the start of the game one was a really good show of this, where I was like watching back and I was like, wow, this was really not a great start.
Hmm.
But I've gotten really good at like handling those situations. But yeah, I just feel like I love when League of Legends is unfair to me. I love it because it gives me that chance to say, okay, who is it I'm gonna be? What kind of person do I want to be whenever the game is unfair to me? Do I want to get tilted? Do I want to flame others? Do I want to lose my cool? No. I want to be the person who doesn't do
Some
that.
could argue the game wouldn't be as fun if it wasn't this unfair.
Oh, absolutely. It wouldn't be as rewarding, fun, or anything like that.
And then the
But
game wouldn't be alive as long as it has, right?
true. I feel like people expect League of Legends to be fair though when they go into it a lot. That's a trouble that people have is that they go into League of Legends expecting fairness. And these are the people usually like you ever heard the idea that like anger and like being upset is based off wishful thinking? People
Yep.
who get road rage are the most hopeful. They hope they won't have any traffic. They hope that nothing will go wrong. And when life shows them that it's not really that's not the way things work, they get upset, they get angry. But that's why being able to be slightly, like understanding that things are not going to always work out allows you to actually be more happy or like, positive.
Hmm.
Why do you think people think League of Legends should be fair? Why is it that they come into the games expecting fairness?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think it's the same argument why life isn't fair and that people want fairness.
Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the way
It's
League of Legends is a
it's
great parallel to life like that. But
yeah.
yeah, continue.
There's many different champions in the game, right? And very varying levels of strengths, right? When you first start the game, first get in. That's itself is just not fair.
Yeah. Playing certain champions that are weak early into strong early game champions can feel just
Yep.
like, how is this allowed?
Like just from the get go, when you even in draft, it's already
Mm-hmm.
not fair.
Yeah.
Banning champions, like randomly banning someone's main is already not fair.
Yep.
It's like before the game loads in,
Or
right?
pick order. Like it's not the same like between red or blue sides. So it's like you're gonna have one person's got to just like someone on blue team first pick. They have to pick knowing what no one else is going to lock in. Like they might have hovers
And
from
they
their
can
team,
get
but like
counterpicked.
yeah, exactly.
It's like,
That's part of draft is that the counter picking is a guaranteed factor in the game.
yeah.
Like you can't avoid it.
And I think your ability to play around counter picks
Yeah.
develops yourself as a person and your skill level
You
for
know
sure.
what? There's also a big aspect of strategy in regards to like sometimes like players will they will be like, all right, how do I get an advantage through draft by like making the pick order like look like I'm playing one position but then trade to get a different one.
Oh, I've been doing that recently
I think that it touches on two
a
things. Like
lot.
one thing is some players will look at it as like that's unnecessary effort. It's not really that important. But I think about to me like draft is a game.
Mhm.
Like whenever you go into draft, there's a reason why if you dodge draft you lose LP. It's because that was a game right there. You were in a game that would, if draft didn't get dodged, begin.
You're setting up chess pieces in the most
It's a,
ideal places
yeah, it's like League of Legends is two
that you're
games.
given.
It's two games. First game is the draft game, and some games you say
Yeah.
you are lost in draft. That's a saying you get some games. What that means is that your draft went so badly that you guys just actually lost that part of the game.
Yeah. I think that's definitely a chess comparison to draft.
Oh yeah. And then once you're in the live game, it's like okay, this is when you're out on the rift. Like you could lose the game there too. But it comes down to both parts of the game.
Yeah.
And
I think of one as your board start position,
yep.
like how the pieces are already positioned, and the other one is how playing it out, right?
You know what strikes me as I just realized?
Mm.
The players who say it's that not important to put all that effort into draft, that actually is part of the kind of the issue. It's that view of it's not important. Some players like will say statements like that, and it's like they're ignoring the actual importance of something.
That
It's
could also
minimization.
be other parts of your life as well. Saying
Yeah,
that's not important. Why would I focus on that?
yeah. It's like people who minimize things and sort of like to say, okay, I don't think that's important, so it must not be important at all. Instead of like seeing things as a complete thing, like from
Yeah, for sure.
all angles. What do you think? Like, I think that that's probably one of the biggest tragedies that people have, honestly, is when they see things as overly simplified.
Yeah, nothing's ever simple.
Yeah, and it's always so tragic when people do think that because it's like, as long as you hold that belief, it will prevent you from seeing what the whole thing is.
And I think the more tragic thing is people's ability to change that belief.
Yeah, because if you can't believe
You
it's
can't
important,
convince them.
yeah,
You can't
yeah,
convince them either.
yeah, you can't. You really can't.
That's more tragic than that, to be honest.
That is true. I think that's what I was thinking about when I was trying to say, like, until you believe it, you realize that you can't change it. It's like it is the fact that people get stuck in that, and it's usually a negative state of emotion, and they're stuck in that negative emotion.
Yeah,
But just like in League, it's like you can't win every game, you can't save every person.
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
There's a certain mindset to things, right? And I think that's even a lot of things in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those skill sets you've kind of built
Mm-hmm.
to recognize these certain systems and perspectives
Yep.
transferred other places, right?
Oh yeah, my things I've learned from League of Legends and like how I understand situations of like what's going on or what can I do in here or how do I get the most out of this like negative scenario. That is applied to like I can transfer those into all aspects of life. It's like I feel like League of Legends. My true belief is this: it is a parallel for life. Like the way you play the game, each game, somewhat mirrors the way that like your events in your life will progress, and you'll find new opportunities. You're not everything won't be fair all the time, and sometimes you got to make the most of the worst. But your choice of how you react to scenarios in League is just like your choice of reacting to situations in life. And a lot of the outcomes you get will be defined by your reaction less than what it is that actually occurred. But all right, do you have any last points you want to make? I do want to keep this one too long. We're at 22 minutes, and that's pretty good lengthwise. So we can wrap up if there's anything else you want to add.
Oof, we haven't even we haven't left off on a transition point, so I don't think so.
All right. Yeah, I think we covered all the main things though.
Yep,
All right.
for sure.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this, and yeah, I'm glad to make this series. I had a lot of just sudden motivation after those 3 games. I'm like, such clarity in that last game too of like, I can see it. Like I was just dealing with the pressure really well and not getting upset at all. Right. Thank you for anyone who joins us watching this, and good luck in your games. And stay calm, even if it looks like it's rough.
Yeah,
All right.
for sure.
All right.